Hi, yes, welcome to another episode of Better Taiwan, where we discuss the impact of COVID-19 on the livelihood of the people on this island and what we're doing to overcome these obstacles and difficulties. Today's conversation is about university. Namely, it's about National Taiwan Normal University. In case you're under 40 and wondering, normal, does that mean there's an abnormal university? No. Normal University is the old name for Teachers College, but nowadays NTNU, also known as Shida, is much more than just a teachers college. In fact, every year, more than 15,000 students enroll at NTNU, and over 10% of them are international students. That's because NTNU is also known for its Mandarin Training Center, one of the biggest and certainly the oldest here in Taiwan. For that same reason, every year, thousands of students from around the world, for example, Australasia, from the Americas, from Europe, from the Middle East, Africa, the Caribbeans, they come to study at NTNU. And understandably, this can be concerning amid 2020's COVID-19 coronavirus outbreak. On Monday, March 30th, one of the students at NTNU was tested positive for COVID-19. The following Thursday, so 3 days after that, was a 4-day long weekend for Tomb Sweeping Festival. Yes, Tomb Sweeping Festival. It's a long-standing Asian tradition. Not important. What is important is that the school took this opportunity to conduct campus-wide disinfection and also to start rolling out its remote learning strategy that went into implementation on the 6th of April, the first university in Taiwan to do so. 3 weeks after that, on April 23rd, we had a chance to catch up with NTNU's American Literature professor, Mary Goodwin, to find out how this web-based teaching method has affected her classes. So let's have Mary here on ICRT. Hello, Mary. So I understand that you've been teaching your students remotely at NTNU. Is the Ministry of Education enforcing it, and how do your fellow teachers feel about it?
Because the students are taking classes online right now, we don't have kind of like a perspective on the ground. But I have to say that Ministry of Education said that classes bigger than 60 and 100 students at different times are ordered online. But I have a class of 51, 52 students, and the virus doesn't know, doesn't have a contract to only come into the classroom if there are fewer than 60. So I think we're worried the students have to travel a distance. They're living in the dorms, stacked up 60, We're worried that transmission is inevitable. And the only way to break it really is to stay away. And it's unlikely too with their culture. I think that the students are always kind of like sitting on top of each other or very close to each other. They're, you can't really separate them. You can make them wear masks. They do that. But otherwise, they're still a great risk, I think.
Okay, so you've been teaching online courses to your 50-odd students, or actually, it's more than just one class, isn't it?
Both, actually, I've been doing both classes. When we came back late after Chinese New Year around March 2nd, everything was business as usual. There were no temperature checks, and no, it was like an idyllic little perfect place where there was no fear. But gradually, we started getting more and more restrictions, and I became really freaked out listening to the news from the States. So eventually, I decided by myself around March 20th to go online with some good encouragement from the IT people in our department.
Okay, and how long did it take for the IT to figure out how to do the hardware?
They're still figuring it out, actually. We started with Zoom, which I
Uh-huh.
must say sadly has security problems, but it's a really good platform. So I hope they work out the security bugs soon. Um, we're now, some of our people are, but I'm using Cisco WebEx. WebEx is very close to Zoom in terms of the function, the sharing, and so on. It doesn't have these breakout rooms that Zoom uses as a real genius kind of function. It doesn't have that, but otherwise, it's pretty, it's manageable, works.
What's the biggest problem you faced so far as a teacher teaching to a class of more than 50 students using these online platforms?
Well, I really miss the in real time feedback. I think I told you guys that I'm used to telling these excellent jokes to my class, and I want immediate feedback from the students. I want them to laugh. But now everybody mutes themselves when they enter class. So in order to laugh at my excellent jokes, they have to, unmute themselves, laugh, haha, and then mute themselves again. So So it's not the flow is different. It's very different. Yeah.
Okay, so that's one downside, to not get the feedback of your students. What about the very important part of teaching is when students need to ask questions, or you need to know if they're getting what you're saying?
I think that's no problem at all. And strangely enough, it seems like a very impersonal medium, but it's been much more of a personal experience than I ever thought it would be, because students seem to have more confidence talking, like whispering into their little screens, than they do, standing up in class and speaking out with the pressure of a lot of people around them. So students have told me over and over again that they appreciate this format. They're able to ask questions and speak. And I regularly call on all of them. So I know where they are. I know whether they have questions. I don't see their faces so much, but I can interact with them. But the other thing is that we don't rely on testing rote memorization, because online that would be kind of a disaster, right? Students would be able to look up everything. They just had their midterms the other day, and I can't teach anything like dictionary definitions or something that I would do maybe in class. So we teachers have to be more creative about how to, figure out if the students really comprehend what they're doing. And I think this goes for everybody in Taiwan. Taiwan has relied a long time on rote memorization in high school, especially. That has to change.
And how has it performed so far? Has it improved? Has it?
I think so too. I think that we are more worried about monitoring them. So we send out more and more group work, and the students use little line groups or whatever to fill out their Google Docs and to send it in. And I can correct stuff in real time while everybody's watching. So really, I think this technology has more advantages than disadvantages. We have been talking in theory about MOOCs, these massive open online courses, for years, right? But now everybody is sort of forced to be that, to do that. So I think it's going to change everything. We're going to be more creative, more personal about the way that we teach online. Everything's going to change.
Okay. You teach literature. Do
Hmm.
you see, or have you talked to any of the other teachers about how this mode of teaching might be a problem for their subjects?
Yes, definitely. In my department, we have people who teach public speaking and who teach pronunciation and everything. But frankly, I still think that those things can be done online. I mean, you present yourself as a public speaker or a PowerPoint or whatever, videotaped. Everybody can see it in the same way. We don't have the same kind of like body language issue. You know what I mean? If students are prone to walking around while giving speeches, you can't really see that online as much. But I think in terms of like pronunciation or other skills, these can be very accurately assessed online.
Do you have any idea how this sort of technology is being implemented in the educational sector in other countries?
Yeah, in the States, they're also facing the same kind of challenges. A lot of teachers and administration people are reluctant to forego the traditional face-to-face classes, right? But they're learning and applying, I think, in the same ways. They have synchronous and asynchronous lessons. The synchronous ones, we get in touch with students and we have discussions online through Moodle or whatever. I mean, through Zoom or whatever. But the lectures, I think, can easily be uploaded and viewed, and this has been done on YouTube for ages, right? I think this is where we're entering a moment of like a singularity, right? Singularity is where we reach a kind of like a point of no return in development. That technology kind of leaps forward and everything looks different. And I think with the whole world forced to use technology to go online, it will create some kind of change in perception, change in ways that we use it. It was before, it was more of a novelty, and now it's a necessity.
And I really like what you mentioned previously about how students are now pretty much unable to take in-class exams because you're not sure if they might be, looking up the right answer. But I think that's a good thing for Taiwan, or at least for Asian students, because our educational system has always had a problem where tests are the only thing to assess them, and they just keep on memorizing things without being able to digest them. This could be a huge pro for Taiwan in the future.
I would say too, like I said, I think it's better for my students than for me. I really do miss a live audience. I really I really cherish face-to-face meetings with people. And I think this is one reason I'm really glad Taiwan's not in a complete lockdown now, because I have a chance to go to the gym. I can talk to real people in real time for at least like 45 minutes at a time. But I really missed that. And I think most of us in this profession, we didn't get into teaching in order to sit behind a screen all day. We got into it in order to see the kids and see what they're registering emotionally and intellectually. But we can make it work. And I think with the younger generation too, that they're much more adaptable to this form. They've been using it themselves for a long time. So it's not a shock to them.
Schools, aside from being an educational establishment, is also a place where you learn to socialize. And now maybe that is out of the equation, eh?
Oh, absolutely. And I heard you actually on the radio yesterday talking about dating in this time. I can't even imagine that kind of rite of passage, or that really important step in keeping civilization going, right? I can't imagine it these days. They absolutely need to be away from each other, and it's got to affect a whole generation, But yeah, so missing all of those social activities, I'm sure this is going to have a negative impact. And there are a lot of things you can't do online. You can't have cheering squads and athletic contests and that kind of thing online. It's true.
And there you have it. Remote learning could become a thing to stay, become more widespread and more prevalent than before. Students and teachers alike have to adapt to this new way of interaction. In fact, our entire educational system and our exam processes could experience a shift in momentum. But for the most part, it seems that, at least for the literature student, it's a welcomed change. On the other hand, how well, say, science students find the lab space to experiment, or performing arts students find enough space to practice? That's a conversation for our next episode. But please do share your comments and thoughts and your experience down below or on our Facebook, ICRT FM 100. And until next time, remember to stay home, remember to stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands. It's been another episode of Better Taiwan. Catch you next week.